actually been very interested in Moana 2 for like the past couple of years. Not necessarily because I care about Moana. I think the first movie is fine. I know other people like really love it, and like I'll be honest with you, I watched Moana like when it came out. I completely forgot about it, and I had to rewatch it today before going to see Moana 2 in order to like refresh my memory. And I think it's fine. Um, but the real reason why I've been interested in Moana 2 is because I feel like it kind of perfectly represents where Disney has been in the past few years and where I think they're trying to get back to. So, for people that don't know, Moana 2 was originally supposed to be a Disney Plus Moana show. And it was like made under Disney's previous CEO, Bob Chapek. And when Bob Chapek was the Disney CEO, the whole Disney mantra was Disney Plus. We need to build up Disney Plus because Disney Plus is the future of the company. And so he's kind of the reason, as to why we saw just a slew of like Marvel Disney Plus shows and Star Wars Disney Plus show and like, a bunch of other Disney Plus nonsense just being vomited out to us, like no regard for quality. It was just completely quantity over quality all over the place, and we've seen the the sort of effects that has had on Marvel and Star Wars. But it was also going to start impacting like Warner Brothers Animation and Pixar as well, and Moana was going to be an example of that, right? Where we were going to get like a Moana Disney Plus series instead of a sequel. In any case, like a couple years ago, Bob Iger, who is the current Disney CEO, he was also the CEO before Bob Chapek because Bob Chapek actually got fired. And then Bob Iger comes in and he's like, "You're making a Moana Disney Plus show? That's stupid. We need to be making a movie because we like making money, don't we?" And so I guess Bob Iger got Disney Animation to like Frankenstein's monster Moana 2 and basically stitch all the episodes together to make a movie. And so that's what we have here in Moana 2. And I've been just so fascinated. I was like, is this going to be a disaster? Is it going to be like completely obvious that this was a TV movie? Or like not even a TV movie, a TV series that's just kind of like hobbled together in order to make it into a movie. And now that I've seen Moana 2, I'll say this. It definitely you can definitely feel the TV, like the Disney Plusification of it all, but it's nowhere near as a disaster as I necessarily thought it could be. I think that the main thing that really keeps this movie back from being necessarily like as good or as meaningful as the first Moana is that in a lot of ways it just kind of feels like it's doing Moana again. So we obviously have Moana back in the sequel. She's Moana, and it just kind of follows a lot of the same steps that the first movie does. So Moana's on her island. She's sort of, they establish her living her life there. And then she's like called off to go on a journey out into the ocean and like, do this like ancient like prophecy or like mystery, or like she has to go solve a thing out in the ocean. And she's like, oh my gosh, I have to go out on this adventure. And, there's like something on the island that's like kind of sort of holding her back, but she has to go off on the adventure anyway. And in Moana 2, in the first movie it was her dad not wanting her to leave the island, and this one it's her sister. And then when she goes off on the adventure, she meets up with Maui again, and they have a little thing. They meet up, and they have their relationship. And it's like they even run into the Kakamakadus, whatever these things are called. I forget what they're called, but they run in with them. And then it's like at the end, she fights like a supernatural force. And it's like, don't get me wrong, like it's not like the exact same as the first Moana. Like there's, even in the instances where they're following a lot of the same beats, like they'll do it slightly differently so that, oh, it's actually fresh this time. But like at the end of the day, like you can do everything slightly differently, but it doesn't stop it from just feeling like more Moana in a sense. Now there are other elements that they introduce into this one. So like she has a little sister, and the little sister is very cute, and her she is kind of like the emotional anchor of the movie, the emotional anchor for Moana. Um, and yeah, it is a very cute relationship, but at the end of the day, it's like she's not in it all that much. And she also has like a crew with her this time that goes out onto the adventure with her, and the crew is very funny. They're very charming. They're not as useless and like not like they and nothing as like the crew in Lightyear, but similarly to Lightyear, it's like they just don't get enough screen time. They don't do enough to develop those characters into becoming as interesting as I feel like they could be. But to be fair to this movie, they are definitely much more charming and funny than the crew in Lightyear. And so at the end of the day, I feel like where you can really feel the Disney Plusification of it all is in the fact that it feels like more Moana. It feels like it's doing a lot of the same beats as the first Moana. But then at the end, at the end of the movie, kind of maybe spoiler alert, I don't really think so, but like at the end of the movie, they tease a third Moana movie that seems much more interesting than the Moana movie that we just watched. Like at the end, they start teasing a third Moana movie with actual fresh and cool ideas that would make for an interesting and impactful sequel. But they just decided to not make that movie. Like we're and so that's really when it started to click for me of like, oh, this was originally going to be a Moana TV series that had to play it very safe. It couldn't do like a bunch of like cool interesting things because they want to save those cool interesting things for the movie. But now that they've decided to turn this into a movie, and like that maybe would have been fine for a Disney Plus show, but now that they've decided to turn this into a movie, it ends up leaving Moana 2 feeling just awkward in a sense. So yeah, I will admit I guess I wasn't like as engrossed in this movie as maybe some other movies, just because I was kind of trying to I was just thinking about the whole business side of it as I was watching it. But at the end of the day, like it's still a fun, enjoyable movie, right? Like if you have like a niece or just like a child in your life that likes the first Moana movie, they're gonna love this one too, right? Like yes, like I've seen a lot of people on Twitter being like Moana 2 is bad or whatever, and it's like that's fine. I'm not saying you can't have that opinion. Obviously I have my own criticisms of it, but like at the end of the day, right, like kids are going to enjoy it, and I guess that's what's important at the end of the day. Not to excuse the movie at all, right? Because you can still criticize it. I'm not saying you can't. Oh yeah, I guess the other thing I should mention is that the music in it is definitely there's definitely a certain je ne sais quoi that the first movie had with its music, where the music I think was a little more impactful than the second movie. I do think it's because Lin-Manuel Miranda isn't back for this, because again, it was a Disney Plus show and they probably just couldn't get Lin-Manuel back for a Disney Plus show. So you definitely feel his absence here. I still think the songs are good though, for the most part. Like, they're not bad by any means. And there's definitely some interesting moments with them that they do. But yeah, the music is also not really as good. But yeah, at the end of the day, Moana, still a fun, enjoyable movie. I think if you like the first Moana, you will enjoy this one. Just kind of go into it with like lowered expectations, I would say. And if you have a kid in your life that, you know, likes Moana, they are also going to like this one. So let me know what you think about any and all of that in the comments down below. Obviously, I'm a little more interested in the business side of things than Moana itself as an IP, but the movies are still enjoyable for what they are. So let me know what you think in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.